You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
Joining us by phone today, the Reverend Michael Sherman, pastor at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Sherman, Illinois, here to share with us about the Illinois Reproductive Health Act. Pastor Sherman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Also joining us by phone today, Mrs. Sherman, Katie Schuermann, author of He Remembers the Barren, He Restores My Soul. Thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be with you this morning.
Pastor Sherman, what is the Illinois Reproductive Health Act?
Yeah, well, it's a rather deceitfully named piece of legislation that's currently working its way, very quickly working its way through the state legislature here in Illinois. In fact, today is the last day of the session for the year for the legislature. It's already passed the House, and I think the Senate has plans to take it up today. So, we're kind of anticipating that it's going to be passing, but what it does is Illinois is already pretty wide open in terms of abortion, but what this act does is just wipes the books. It removes most of the statutes that have to do with abortion off the books in Illinois, and establishes what is essentially a right to have an abortion anytime for any reason, up until the moment of birth. And of course, that can be a bit fungible too. And but it doesn't just do that. Unfortunately, as bad as that is, it also makes abortion more or less a right for anyone in the state in terms of being able to have it with no cost. So it forces, at least no cost to the person who wants the abortion. So it forces every private health insurance plan in the state to cover elective abortion at any time at no cost to the person having the abortion, the insured party, with no exceptions, no exemptions for religious or conscience objections. It removes the right of doctors and nurses to refuse to perform abortion services for conscience reasons. It goes on from there, but those are the biggies. So it's a pretty bad law from a Christian perspective and from a natural law perspective as well.
It's interesting the laws that are being passed in Missouri right now and the laws that are being passed in Illinois, just how opposite they are from each other. It's a little mind-boggling. What's at stake with this act?
Well, a lot of babies' lives, to be certain. But also now the consciences of basically every citizen of the state of Illinois. This bill doesn't do this. Last year or the year before, I can't remember when it was now, a separate law was signed in which uses Illinois tax dollars to fund abortion through I think Medicaid, but also through the health insurance offered to all state employees. That covers elective abortion now. It has for a bit now. So that was already an issue, and this is just expanding this conscience issue for people who disagree with abortion. I mean, whether you're Christian or not, if you don't want to pay for abortions, you're going to be being forced to pay for them in the state of Illinois, at least indirectly, either through your tax dollars or through business owners. Now, if they want to offer insurance to their employees, they're going to have to offer, according to the law of or what will be the law of the state of Illinois if this passes. Business owners are going to have to pay for insurance plans that cover abortion services and abortifacient drugs and all that too, whether they want to or not, because the state is mandating it.
Some of the language surrounding this, the terms that I've read, especially from some of the legislators that voted for this, was that this particular act is shows that Illinois is better than the war on women. Katie, what's your response to that? As you, I'm sure you've heard this phrase multiple times as well, the war on women. What's your response to that?
Well, it's the great farce, isn't it? Because what would be one of the greatest wars on women would be to kill them. And this is exactly what we're doing. We're killing women in the womb. We're killing genetically whole, independent human beings. Yes, they need the nourishment of their mother, but we're warring on women insofar as we're turning women into murderers. We're turning them into, instead of people who would give of themselves and care for others, we're telling them that no, you should actually care only for yourself. You should care only for these ideals and dreams of what you want to have happen in your life, in your future, rather than caring for actual human beings. And so the great irony of all of this is that where maybe one side would see that there's reproductive freedom in this, actually what they're asking for is sexual freedom, not really reproductive freedom. They're asking to be able to have sex with anyone they want at any time, but never have to take care of another human being as a result of it. Reproductive freedom is not happening here. What's actually happening is people reproduce, and then we just want to do away with the results of that reproduction. We want to eliminate entire populations of people. And so in the name of women's rights, we're actually taking women's rights away. Every woman already has the right to decide not to have sex. Every woman has the right to abstain. Granted, there are atrocities such as rape. But in general, this country protects the right of women. They have the right to choose whether or not to get married. Yet we are now saying that women in the womb have no right to live at all.
How can Illinois residents respond to this? And this is the last day of session for Illinois legislation. So how can Illinois residents respond to this?
Right now, even if it means turning off the radio right now, call your state senator and tell them you want them to vote no on Senate Bill 25. That's the bill that has been, this Reproductive Health Act has been inserted into that bill. So that's the right now. Also, contact Governor Pritzker's office and just communicate that you don't want him to sign the bill. That's what we can do right now, politically. But also, we Christians, we need to prepare to do what we can, living in if you're in Illinois, anyways, living in this state which is requiring these things. We're going to have to. We should be already, but we're going to keep on caring for women who are scared and pregnant, who need help in their pregnancy, who are desperate, and fathers and families and all these, everyone affected. We need to be ready with the gospel to comfort these people who have been deceived. Someone who goes in and aborts her baby is going to be scarred, period, in one way or another. And if by God's grace she comes to see the wrong of that, that what she has done is harmed, murdered, brought about the death of another human being, and not just any human being, but her child, she's going to need the gospel. She's going to need to know that Christ's forgiveness is even for that, and is so great that it even covers over that sin and that shame and guilt. So, we need to be ready for that long term, but the short term, call your state senator, no on Senate Bill 25, and then call or write to Governor Pritzker's office and ask him to not sign, if it comes to his desk, not to sign Senate Bill 25.
We have just under 2 minutes left, but wanted to address this. This is both, when it comes to the law, we're talking about the various uses of the law here. We're talking about civil law, but also this is a heart issue. So we're talking about protecting our neighbor, laws to protect our neighbor, but also this is a heart issue. How do we address both of these in truth and love, especially in our conversations or in the public arena?
Yeah, we should approach every person as a fellow sinner redeemed by Christ, whether they believe it or not. They are a fellow sinner redeemed by Christ. Paul writes to the Corinthians, has this big list of sins and says, "Such were some of you." That's who these people are. That's who we are. But we all have these sins. So we need to come to them with that mindset. However, we still need to speak what is true, which is, what abortion is, what is being advocated for here, how harmful it is to force your neighbor to pay for your abortion when they disagree with it. And so we need to say, this is contrary not only to God's revealed will in the law, right, 10 Commandments, etc., but it's contrary to the natural law, just the way things are. We all know that killing one another is wrong, whether you're a Christian or not. We all know that ending someone's life who doesn't deserve to have their life ended is wrong, and that's what we're dealing with. So we need to talk and just kind of have conversations with people about this. Probably not screaming matches, but just conversations to deal with this.
In truth and love. The Reverend Michael Schuermann, pastor, Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, Sherman, Illinois. Mrs. Katie Schuermann, author of He Remembers the Barren, He Restores My Soul. Thank you both for being our guests this morning.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.